Okay, so we started recording, okay? Okay, so just to summarize so far, Neeta
Yeah.
and Billu and Kiki and Rupa and Tony and everybody, just to summarize, we said that when we come to Gita, right, as normal, humble human beings, thinking we are this physical body. So what does Gita tell us? Gita tells us right off the bat, it says, hey, you're not the physical body, right? There is a subtle body that you have to consider. You think that when your body is gets birth, born, then you are born, then you come into existence, and when the body dies, you cease to exist. That is not true. So straight away it tells you that. It says no, there is a subtle body, and the subtle body continues and goes to the next janam. And where it will go and what kind of janam it will have depends on the karmas that are in the subtle body, that are actually in the causal body. But let's combine causal and subtle body just to simplify. So it depends on those karmas, which karmas are plucked out of them, and based on those karmas which are plucked out, which is called the what are they called? Prarabdha karmas. You get the appropriate body, right? And then it also says not only that. This is the subtle body is just a form, just like the physical body is a form. The real substance is the Atma, which the physical body and the subtle body are all made of. And your own substance is also Atma, right? You're not just a physical body or even just a subtle body. Your substance is Atma. And then it goes further. It says, okay, this Atma, by the way, is never born, never does it, nor does it die. It is Nitya, matlab eternal. It is changeless, it is partless, it is Advitya. Uh, Everybody there's only one Atma, doesn't matter who the person is and all that. So we went through all of that stuff. And then it went further and said, by the way, not only is this Atma uh, changeless, formless, etc., and the substance, it is also bliss. It is also happiness. It is the source of your happiness. You think that your happiness comes out of having desires and then meeting those desires, and your happiness comes out of relationships, and your happiness comes out of objective things that you want. It comes out of objects and goods and things. No, that's not true. Actually, your happiness comes out of your own real self. And that real self is not going anywhere. So your happiness is not going anywhere. The reason you think that your happiness is coming out of your desires and everything else is because of your ignorance of the real self. You don't know yourself. You think you're this physical body or this subtle body, and the physical body and subtle body are just forms. They are not substance. And any form is always has a limit. A form always has an outline. There's a limit. You can say this is the form and this is not the form. So this part of the thing is in the form, this is not in the form. You know that you're limited when you think about yourself as the form. So you want to expand that limit. You want to become limitless. And so you think that these objects will help you get there. But actually, that is not the case. You are limitless. You just have to know that. And the process of knowing that, this whole process of gaining this knowledge, Bhagavan Krishna told Arjun there are two possible routes for it, or two possible lifestyles for it. One lifestyle is called sannyas. The other lifestyle is called karma yoga. They're both basically the same thing, just a little difference in emphasis. Some people say, I want to become a sannyasi, and what happens with sannyasis, you basically are relieved of your responsibilities as a sannyasi. So you're told you don't have to worry about the world. You don't have to worry that you're a dad, you're a son, you're this and that. You're relieved of them. You give up all your possessions also, give up everything and focus completely on gaining this knowledge. Some people do that. Very minor, very small fraction of the people actually do that and are advised to do that. The large majority of the seekers are advised what is better for them is Karam Yoga. That means don't have to do anything different. Stay in the world. Do exactly what you're doing. Do the same things you're doing. Just do it with a different attitude. So it says actually two things, and we're actually going to go through this today in detail. One thing it says is continue to focus on your knowledge. Build your knowledge about yourself. And second thing it says is, now when you start doing the things that you are always doing, have a prayer in your mind. Do it in a different way. Say that I'm doing it not to gain material goods, but to gain peace of mind, which will help me with my knowledge. Okay. So that's a summary of what we've learned so far. Okay. So any major question on this? Because we will have a proper question and answer at the end. But I just want to, if there's anything which is not clear, just ask me. Otherwise, we will talk more about it. So let me now then go on to the next topic, so to say. What do we know about this road, the progress to this road? How do we track our progress on this road? Is there like a dashboard or a scorecard that we can keep in mind? And the answer is yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought it up. And this scorecard is given to us by Sri Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, when he has written about um, Advaita Vedanta. And this scorecard, you think about the scorecard as having 4 quadrants. You know, I don't know whether you guys have heard about something called a balanced scorecard. This kind of like it's like, you have a scorecard to see, am I tracking? So the first quadrant of the scorecard is the quadrant of knowledge. Okay. And let's see what happens. So at the bottommost rung of this dimension is a samsari. A samsari is a person who's living in this world, doesn't know anything about Gita, about Vedanta, nothing, is chasing pleasures. That's like we all were at some stage. Mindlessly chasing pleasures, mindlessly chasing wealth, mindlessly chasing relationships, right? We are just doing it in a bhed chal because everybody else is doing it. That's a samsari. And going up and down, sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're sad, sometimes happy, sad, up and down. That's a samsari. So, what is the knowledge of a samsari? So, the knowledge of the samsari has no idea what is this Atma, what is this Dehi, right? Brahman, kuch pata nahi hai. Samsari thinks all the knowledge there is the knowledge that is there which he can see. For the samsari, there is science, which is knowledge. There is arts ki knowledge. There is knowledge about people. There is knowledge about interpersonal relationships. There's knowledge, all kinds of knowledge that we have. You go to college, you go to school, you go to work, you can learn about your job. All this knowledge is there for a samsari. So the this is sort of where the samsari is thinking. When he thinks about getting more knowledge, this is the knowledge he's thinking of getting. Now the actual dimension that the quadrant, मैंने आपको knowledge कह के बताया है, but what Adi Shankaracharya says is it's called vivek. This quadrant is called vivek. Vivek means discrimination. And knowledge and discrimination go hand in hand. So you say a person is wise if the person is discriminating, right? If a person has good discrimination, that's a wise man or a wise woman. So, for example, if someone really knows a lot about wines, right? Drinking wines, he'll be able to discriminate between a fine wine and a bad wine. जिसको कुछ पता ही नहीं है उसको तो every wine is the same. Same with art, same with music, right? Same with work, same with people. To be able to discriminate and say who's a guy who I can trust and who's a guy I can't trust. That a person who has a lot of knowledge and experience working with people will be able to say. So for a samsari, a discrimination is all this sort of discrimination. And this is very useful discrimination. I'm not saying it's not. But the discrimination we are talking about, the knowledge we are talking about it's called Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. That means the discrimination between that which is eternal and that which is temporary. In other words, the discrimination between form and substance. And you guys have, we've gone through this. So you have at least the beginnings of this discrimination now. You know that everything that you can see is a form. Everything that you can hear, everything you feel is a form. The substance is the Atma, which can not be neither be seen nor felt nor heard. It's there though. But right now, you're maybe little one rung above the samsari because we just know about it as a concept. We don't intuitively feel it. The other side, the highest level of this, is a jnani. So samsari on the one end and jnani on the other. Jnani is a person for whom this Atma and this Dehi is as real as the world is for us around us, maybe even more real. He doesn't have to think about the Dehi. He doesn't even question about it. It's just there. He sees everything as Atma. He sees everything as the Dehi. So that's the sort of the moksha. That's called moksha in other words. So that's the other end of the knowledge spectrum. So this is the spectrum on which we are going to travel as Karam yogis from the samsari to a jnani. And we'll see you can match your you can see how you're progressing along this spectrum. Okay. So this is the first quadrant of tracking. Then there's the second quadrant. There are four quadrants, right? So quadrant number 2 is the quadrant of values. Shankaracharya calls it Vairagyam. Vairagya. So Vairagya is the quadrant of values. What do you actually value in life? Now I can ask you this, you probably know this already, right? What would a samsari value? What do you think are the more important values for a samsari?
Material wealth.
Yeah,
Material.
material wealth, right? That's what we've been through it, so we know. It's nothing new to us. Some samsaris say, no, 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 I'm better because I don't value material wealth, I value relationships.
Yeah.
So I'm a notch higher. Okay. Then there'll be another samsari who will say, no, 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 you're both useless. I value dharma and adharma. I value righteousness versus non-righteousness. I am better. Right? So the samsaris, all of us, we keep fighting amongst ourselves. We can decide somebody will say, I'm this, I'm that. We keep saying, telling ourselves, ye aisa, aisa hai. But what Vedanta is telling us and what Shankaracharya and Gita is telling us is that all of these things are different aspects of material life. Relationships, power, money, wealth, uh, dharma, adharma, all of them are just different aspects. They're all pointing to the same thing. They're all feeding your ego. One way or the other, they're feeding your ego. They're feeding your sense of separateness, separate self. Maybe you can say, yeah, someone who's dharmic is better than someone who's just materialistic. Yeah, you can say that in a very relative way. Down at the bottom, you can say something is the rank bottom and another thing is 2 millimeters above it, something like that. You can make those distinctions. But really, as far as Vedanta is concerned and as far as Gita is concerned, these are all different parts of different ways of different aspects of materialism. So then, what would a jnani value? Maybe the samsari goes from total materialism, then he goes up to more of a dharmic vision of life. But what would a jnani value? So a jnani values that which gives jnani happiness, and that is dehi, that is atma. So why do we value relationships? Why? Because they give us happiness. Why do we value wealth? Because we believe that they give us happiness, right? We are not going to go value things which are not going to be giving us happiness. At the end of the day, what we all value, whether it's a jnani or whether it's a samsari, is happiness. That's one thing we all value. The question is what we believe gives us happiness. So as long as we believe that the happiness is going to come from wealth, then we will really value wealth. But as our knowledge goes up, and we start thinking and realizing that it's not just wealth, there's more to it, right? The happiness coming from a different source. Then we'll start valuing that source. So vairagyam is a way of saying, is an indication of saying that a person who has good vairagyam, that vairagyam actually means without rag. Rag means intense desires. So when you are without intense desires, you're basically objective. That's what it means. If you have a lot of desires and biases and hatreds and all of these things, you lose your objectivity. And we can see that happening to us all the time, by the way. Elections is a great way. We become tribal. we cannot, we couldn't, we forget everything else. We just want our candidate to win. Nothing else matters. We're willing to do anything, right? That's a sign of non-vairagyam. That's a sign of raga. But vairagyam, and this is just an example, but vairagyam means objective. So vairagyam doesn't mean that I don't value money. That's another big, big misconception which people have about Vedanta. Even I had that I don't value money. There's an interesting story one time of I think one of the gurus. वो कहते थे कि उनको अगर पैसे की गठरी ना होती थी, तो if somebody put a gठरी of cash under his pillow when he was sleeping, and he woke up in the morning, he said, मेरे को आज नींद ही नहीं आई. He had an aversion to cash. He said, I don't want it. Away. I don't want money. I don't want money. So I'm giving you this example to tell you that that is not an example of vairagyam. That is an example of raga. If something causes a lot of desire in you, or it causes a lot of hatred in you, it's the same thing. It's raga. Okay? So if you have an intense dislike for the world and dislike for money, that is not vairagyam. Vairagya means being able to understand the importance of money. And money is very important. So why should we not make money? With money, we can have a lot of conveniences, we can do a lot of things. But at the same time, you know that money is not the thing that is going to give you your ultimate happiness. And you act accordingly. So value the thing that gives you happiness too. There's something which money can give and something which can't give. वो कहते थे ना, money can't buy you love. But money can't buy you love, but love also can't buy you happiness. So that is the other thing. Anyway, that's what I was trying to say. कि vairagyam just means be objective.
मेल बेटा सब ड्राइंग रूम की लाइटें बंद कर दो.
So that's from the samsari. Samsari doesn't have vairagyam. Samsari has a lot of rag. He has a lot of things he likes, lot of things he doesn't like, lot of hatred, lot of biases, lots of opinions. This is good. This is not good. I'm good. I'm better. That's the state of a samsari. Hundreds of opinions. Now we kuch pata ho, uske upar bhi opinion, right? We all have opinions. And the Jnani doesn't have too many opinions. Jnani is just fine. He says, I don't want opinions. I'm okay. I understand where my pleasure comes from. I'm absorbed in myself. I'm good, right? These opinions come and they go. Today it will be one opinion. Today one thing will be in fashion or one person is in fashion. Tomorrow another person will be in fashion. That's perfectly fine. So that is called Vairagya. Then there's a third quadrant, which Adi Shankaracharya talks about. And the third quadrant is the quadrant of desires. Okay? So now it's again very similar. The same thing happens with desires too. Now you can say Vairagya means no desire, but that's not exactly true. Because what happens is that when you are a samsari, your mind is going in multiple directions. It's you want this also, you want that also, you want see this, you like that, you see that, oh, वहां भी जाना है, इधर भी करना है, ये भी लेना है, like everything has a pull for you. Everything pulls you. Different things. People, things, houses, cars, like everything has a pull. But for a jnani, that's not the case. For a jnani, these desires start getting consolidated as you go up the ladder of the desire. By the way, this is in Shankaracharya's language, it's called Mumukshutvam. Mumukshutvam means an intense desire for freedom. So these desires get consolidated, and ultimately you end up with one desire. And that one desire is desire for freedom. And that's also not a jnani. That's us. We end up with this desire for freedom. Like, it doesn't mean that there is no other desire. It just means there's one overarching desire. I want to get away from this up and down of life. I want to get away from this ongoing anxiety, from today happy, tomorrow sad, scared of death, scared of this. I just want to get away from this. That becomes your overarching desire. And that's when that happens, then you go to something like Vedanta. And what Vedanta does first, or Gita does first, is convert this desire for freedom into a desire for knowledge. So it changes you from a mumukshu, in other words, from a mumukshu to a jigyasu. So mumukshu is a person who has a desire for freedom, mukti. मुक्ति की डिजायर जिसको है वो मुमुक्षु है. ज्ञान की डिजायर जिसको है वो है जिज्ञासु. So because it tells you that the way to getting these desires is through self-knowledge. Then it sort of orients your mind. This desire for freedom transforms into a desire for knowledge. So the first thing we have to do is to understand how self-knowledge brings freedom. Till we are not clear about this, we will never have a desire for knowledge and we won't be able to make progress properly. So we are now in the process of trying to understand that. So we had some conversations about it. We are trying to understand how our how the answer to our quest is self-knowledge. This is first step. Once we have this clarity that it's self-knowledge is my answer, then the rest of it, you can at least focus. It becomes easier. And this is important because there are many spiritual disciplines and spiritual practices, spiritual gurus, and you go to different ones, they'll say different things. Not everybody says that self-knowledge is the answer, right? Some people might say answer is meditation. Some people might say answer is jap, right? What Vedanta says is, and many, not just Vedanta, but many other spiritual disciplines also say this, is that the purpose of jap, the purpose of meditation is to make your mind stronger, to make your mind a little relaxed, so that that mind is more ready to accept knowledge, is able to learn, is able to know. Because a mind which is too helter-skelter all over the place, completely unfocused, like an ADHD mind, that can't possibly focus and learn about self-knowledge. It just won't get there because it's not easy. So the third quadrant is the quadrant from a whole lot of desires on the one end, different desires scattering you here and there, to a single pointed desire for self-knowledge on the other end as a jnani. So you will see as you go along that your own desires are changing. They will. Because Gita is going to give you direction. It's going to give you guidance. So far, we haven't got this direction and guidance from anywhere. We've just been, left to our own devices, doing our thing. Okay, so this was number 3 quadrant. And then the fourth and the final quadrant is the quadrant of discipline. Very important quadrant. Okay, where you'll see your mind will become more disciplined. Mind you, I'm not saying you have to discipline your mind. I'm not saying that. That also you have to do a little bit. But your mind will become more disciplined. Because what you'll find is that knowledge brings discipline. We can't really have discipline if we are just using our willpower and forcing ourselves. That's a very superficial discipline. It'll break after a while. Discipline can only come when you know that by doing this discipline, by doing this, there is a big benefit for me. Then you will discipline yourself because there's motivation. If you don't know that there's a benefit for you, you will not discipline yourself. And that's why Vedanta stresses so much on knowledge, on understanding. understanding precedes discipline. Okay, discipline follows understanding. Now, of course, there's a part to it too where, in spite of understanding, you're not disciplining because of habits. You know better and you still can't discipline. There, you have to use some other techniques. You have to use some other ways to get around that. And that will also happen. So there is no denying that. But in general, you'll find understanding helps with discipline. So in this discipline quadrant, the the way that Gita explains this, Bhagavan Krishna gives a chariot analogy of a chariot. He says a chariot with a good sarthi, with a good driver, there are horses there, they have their own mind, right? But a chariot goes where the person who's sitting at the back, not the driver, but the guy who's the yajaman, the guy who's behind, who owns the chariot, who's being driven. Wherever he says go, the chariot goes there. So let's say you're the person who's being transported. You're Arjun, right? And Bhagwan Krishna is the driver. Arjun says, Bhagwan Krishna, I need to go to the middle of the battlefield in between the two armies. Now the chariot, Bhagwan Krishna starts the chariot, chariot goes the other way. That's not going to work. Chariot has to follow the directions of the person who's sitting in the chariot, who's the key passenger of the chariot, right? For that, first, think about Arjun as the self. Bhagwan Krishna is the buddhi. The buddhi has to understand, right? Understand what the self is saying. Then that buddhi, the reins of the chariot are like the mind. The buddhi has to be able to tell the mind, do this. And the mind has to be able to follow the directions of the buddhi. Agar reins carry hai, right jana hai, to right jana hai. But that is not enough. Then there are horses. Horses are our sense organs. Aankhein, kaan, naak, वगैरह वगैरह. Horses can easily get distracted. Horses को कहीं पे कुछ दिखेगा interesting, वो वहां चले जाएंगे. They won't care about the reins, right? If the horses are not disciplined, they'll go wherever they want to go. So you have to discipline the horses. Sometimes not just you have to discipline the horses, you have to put blinders on so that the horses stay disciplined. So you got to do all these things. Then you can say, yes, now I have a chariot which is disciplined. I want to go in one direction and I'm going there. I'm not going anywhere else. That's what we need to be disciplined. We have a self. We understand the direction of our self somewhere deep down. We have said, I want to gain self-knowledge. Then your buddhi has to understand that I want to get self-knowledge. And the buddhi has to understand what that knowledge is. What do we have to do to get that knowledge? That has to be translated to the mind. The mind should not have a mind of its own. The mind should follow the buddhi, right? And your senses should follow the mind. You should be able to do all your karam indriya and the gyan indriya should follow what the mind is saying. What happens with the samsari? This is what happens with the jnani. Okay, this is the end state. What happens with the samsari? What happens with the samsari is that the mind has a mind of its own. Your buddhi might be saying, screaming, shouting, everything, but the mind will say, nahi, 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 मुझे ये चाहिए, मुझे ये करना है. I want to smoke a cigarette right now. That's it. I don't care whether it's going to give me lung cancer or whatever it's going to do. I just want to smoke a cigarette right now. So your buddhi is trying to tell the mind, don't do it. The mind says, hell with you, right? Or, this is just one example. There are hundreds of examples of this. This is how our life is. It's not completely that, but a sizable percentage of it, we are creatures of habit. And our habits dictate what what our actions are. Sometimes more than our intelligence, sometimes not as much, but it's not a reliable thing. You cannot rely on yourself to completely be disciplined. So that's one aspect of discipline. Shankaracharya also talks about a second aspect of discipline, and that is called Shraddha. Shraddha means that you give your mind gives the thing a chance. So for instance, if I tell you or Gita tells you that Atma is one. It's the same Atma, regardless of Mita, Billu, Kikimi, Rupa, everybody. We're all the same Atma. But this is a crazy thought. Right? We could have never imagined that there will be one Atma. We always thought I am a different person, Billu is a different person, right? It's our intuitive understanding is that we are different, and everybody has their own consciousness. You guys have Shraddha. That is why you said, although my brain tells me, my intuition tells me there is something wrong here, this is not right. However, if Gita says this is true, there must be something in it. Maybe I am not understanding what is being said. Let me try to understand it better. This is called Shraddha. I would say the same thing to, and I've said it, to a Westerner, even to some intelligent Indians. Their reaction is, oh, no, no, this is not right. Gita doesn't know what it's talking about. No, no, there's something wrong. They're trying to make a fool of me. They're trying to, they're trying to take me for a ride. They're saying stuff which it doesn't, so right? That is not a Shraddha. For something like this that we are on the path of, we are trying to learn, Shraddha is vital. Because we'll be talking about a lot of things which are non-intuitive. Till such time that they become intuitive. Eventually they will. So Bhagwan, so actually Swami Dayanand calls it, Shraddha is faith pending understanding. So ultimately you'll understand, but till the time you understand, have faith. That's Shraddha. That's how he calls it. So these are the four quadrants, okay? The knowledge quadrant, which is viveka, nitya, anitya, vastu, viveka. Then the values quadrant, which is vairagyam. Then the desires quadrant, which is mumukshutvam. And the discipline quadrant, which is actually called Shat-Sampati. So Shat-Sampati means the six treasures. And Shankaracharya describes the six treasures of the mind, Shraddha being one of them, which are, Shama, Dama, different kinds of disciplines, but there's no point going into them. They're all basically around discipline. So one of them is the discipline of the sense organs, then the discipline of the mind, then, things like that. Then the tolerance, level of tolerance, have high tolerance, things like this. So, but it's all about discipline of the mind. So this is our tracker. So keep this in mind as you go along and see how you're tracking on these four dimensions. Uh, you know.
Where are you in these?
I'm right at the bottom, Mita. Maybe I'm like one millimeter above.
You have to be above all of us.
Yeah. So for the next few days or couple of weeks, 3-4 weeks, I'm a little above you, one millimeter, and I can speak confidently, so you will be fine. After that, we are all in the same boat. Then we will have to struggle ourselves. We'll have to find a new guru.
I don't think so. We like you as a guru.
Acha, acha, okay, good. See, it's not about likes and dislikes, huh, Mita? Remember that. That's true. Okay. So I want to say one more thing, and then we'll do a Q&A. I was thinking, बड़ी देर लग रही है यार. Okay. I know. So I wanted to tell you what a day might look like for us if we are going to follow this, be a Karma Yogi. What would we need to do? And the way to think about it is to think about two things that we have to do during the course of the day. One thing is take some time out for ourselves. And the other thing is do what we've always been doing. The
other thing is, sorry?
Do what you've been doing with a different attitude. And I'll cover both of them. So first, what does this time out for ourselves mean? So in this... Kya?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
So what do we do during this time out for ourselves? So one thing we have to do is study. Because knowledge is important. So what you're doing right now, we are every 2 weeks, we are meeting, we are talking about this. This is the driver. The driver of this whole thing is knowledge. So you have to get this knowledge. So you're getting this knowledge a little bit from me, but over time you'll have to get it you'll probably find yourself doing more of it. You'll probably reach out to others. You'll go on YouTube, things like that. You'll read books. Like Billu's reading that book on the road of the Ganges. We all will be doing other things, but eventually, what we have to make sure is that we are getting knowledge. There's a guru in India, very famous guru, Partha Sarathy. He has a he has a very strict schedule. What he tells all his people is get up at 4 in the morning. I'm not saying that because I never do that. He says get up at 4 in the morning. From 4 to 6, study. So, in fact, that is his because he says the rest of the day becomes very busy. You get caught up in everything else. So, take those 2 hours and study. So, he has a book. He says, study that book. You don't have to read the Gita because you may not understand it. Read something which is simpler. In fact, actually, he was saying he's written like 4 or 5 books. He's written like 4 or 5 books, and all those books he's written from 4 to 6 in the morning. He That is his time. So he just writes little every day. So, but he says that, and that, that's a sort of a rather extreme or intense way to think about it. But for us right now, but eventually you'll find you are spending at least 2 hours, maybe more, during the course of the day, thinking about this stuff. Okay, so that is one part of the me time, which is reflection, which is a study. The other part of the me time is reflection, and that reflection can happen during the morning in the study time, or it can happen at the end of the day, anytime. But you have to look back and see your day and see where in those during the course of the day did you do things which your knowledge tells you were not the right things to do. You got angry, you got upset, you got unhappy, something happened, you reacted on an impulse, you did things which, now if you had to do them again, you wouldn't do them the same way, right? And it happens to all of us. So find those things and relive it in your mind and see how would you have done it. How would I do it now if I had to do it again? How would I do it? And actually, not only that, go through some self reflection and say, why did I do it? I'll give you an example of this, just so you know what I mean. And by the way, just before that, I wanted to tell you also Karam Yoga, it says Karam, but the secret of Karam Yoga is that it's not really about Karam, it's about relationships. It's all about, you'll find your Karam Yoga is coming into play with everything in our life is about relationships with others. And so is Karam Yoga. Even at work, when we say we are doing work, we are basically transacting with people. We are relating to people. When we say we want something, it's all in relation to people. I want money. I want more money than the next guy. That's my reward, right? My rewards are also comparative. It's all about relationships. So the example I'm going to give you also is about relationships in Karam Yoga. So for example, and this is just, I'm just taking it off the top of my head because I'm trying to figure out, let's say that I'm a mother-in-law and I don't get along with my daughter-in-law, right? And I have like every time we have all cut shit going on. So what would a reflection of this look like? I may at the end of the day think about it, say, oh, today was not a good day. I fought too much with my daughter-in-law. And you'd say, why did I fight so much with my daughter-in-law? I should not be fighting. Next time I'll try not to fight. Next time I try to hold my breath. Next time, the next day again, the same thing happens. And you forget your resolve. You're still fighting. You're still saying bad things to each other. You're still hurting each other. Then your reflection goes deeper at the end of that day. You say, you know what? Maybe it's not the daughter-in-law as such. The reason I may be fighting with my daughter-in-law is about control. So that's a little bell that rings in your head. Maybe it's about control. Then you go this thing keeps going. And then you start thinking more and you say, you know what? It's about control of my son. It's about my desire, my fear that I will lose my son to my daughter-in-law. That's what is really bugging me. It's about I want to control my son. And you think a little bit more about it over time, and you'll say, you know what, it's not even about my son. It's about control. I just want to control everything in my life because I'm afraid that if I don't control things in my life, life will go out of hand. I will lose everything. I'll have nothing if I don't control. And you go deeper and you'll realize, oh, you know what? It's not, where did this control problem come from? It's because during some times in my early childhood or earlier life, I lost everything. I lost too many things, right? You can keep going down this. And what you will end up, what Gita tells you where you will end up, is giving you the answer. You end up is this lack of knowledge about yourself, this fear about yourself. You're afraid that if you don't do something, you, you will not be happy, you will suffer. So we can't trust, and we can't trust ourselves, our own self, and we can't trust others. So we have to all, this is nothing remarkable in this. This is ordinary, everyday, everybody. But our own paths may be different. It manifests in different people differently. In me, it may be manifesting, I'm not a mother in law, so it may be manifesting in me more to do with my work, my job, my career. And with someone like, I mean, you all have lovely daughters-in-law, so I'm not going to talk about that. But, somebody else maybe, has a problem with in-laws, or somebody has a problem with something else. You'll see it everywhere. Now that you will observe it, now that you're forced to reflect on it and to think about it and study all these things, you will see this everywhere. It's like when you buy a Tesla, you see all Teslas on the road. सारी Teslas नजर आती हैं. It's like that. But you'll see that, and then you just have to do it for yourself. Trace your own path for yourself. And if you can't do it yourself, get some help. Ask your husband or wife to help you, get a friend. If it's really bad, go to a therapist. But I don't think that is our situation here for any of us. But this is the kind of reflection. And what this reflection will do over time is you will actually begin to see the linkage between your concept of yourself and your issues in life. What you used to think are problems on the other person, you'll find are problems in your own self concept. Not that the other person is free of any blame. Other person is also in the same boat. The other person also, if was to do the same Gita teaching, would come to the same conclusion. The problem is with me, my own problem. But we are not concerned about the other person's problems right now. We are concerned about our issues, right? So at the end of the day, when you're able to draw the linkage between your issues and your self concept, the reflection is being successful. If you're not able to make that linkage, then you got to keep reflecting more. And the self concept at the end, what is self concept? Self concept is, what do I think of myself? I mean, Vidur has not come here today. He apologized. He said he can't make it today. But if Vidur was here, he'll tell you, for a therapist, self concept means I'm as good as anybody else. Right? For a spiritual seeker, that is not enough. For a spiritual seeker, the self concept goes much beyond. It means I am complete. Everybody else is also complete, but I am complete. That is the knowledge which you have to get. And this knowledge right now is theoretical, but Karam Yoga makes it practical. You will actually see in your life, because you will start changing your behavior. You'll start seeing, little by little, your behavior will change. And as your behavior changes, you'll see your happiness is not going down, it's going up. By reducing control, your control is going up also. Your happiness is going up, your control is going up, respect from others is going up. Everything is going up. All that was in the problem was in our own mind. It was our own. We created problems for our own self because we had so little confidence in ourselves, so little trust and knowledge about ourselves. So that is the Karma Yoga. And Bhagwan Krishna, I mean, like Swami Dayanand in his book, he said, one way to do this thing in your behavior is, whenever you're doing anything, remember God. remember Ishwar and pray to Ishwar. So he said, pray to Ishwar and ask, because there are two things that let me go back. Why this? One thing we do know, and you remember we talked about this earlier too, that the universe has its own intelligence. It's an intelligent universe. It has order, it has laws. That intelligence is called Ishwar. You remember we talked about this? I sent you an article also about this. Universe is not stupid. The universe is not dumb. And it's not that all the intelligence is with us and the universe is just sitting there. Actually, the universe is extremely intelligent. Intelligence means the presence of an order. Our order and our intelligence is very limited compared to that. We think that we achieve something, but in reality, the universe has a big role to play in what you achieve, much bigger than even you probably. So just acknowledging that is what it means by saying recognize Ishwar. You can think about the intelligence in the universe as Ishwar. If you want to, you can think about personified and think about Krishna Bhagwan or some other Bhagwan as Ishwar. It's the same thing as long as you know they're the same thing, that they represent the intelligence in the universe. So acknowledge that it'll take care of your ego. It'll kind of lessen the ego a little bit. And Swami Dayanand says actually you could pray to him. Think ka matlab kya hoga? When you think about it means what? You pray to that person. You want results, pray for those results. In the beginning, we will actually just want results. We want ye bhi theek ho jaye, ye bhi theek ho jaye. Pray for that. That's okay. At least in that process, you are acknowledging the presence of an intelligence beyond yours and acknowledging your own limitation. You're getting your fundas clear on this. Over time, you will automatically start praying less for the result and more for your peace of mind. As your knowledge increases, right, and you realize that results is not just what makes you happy ultimately, what you'll start praying for is your peace of mind. You'll be praying for Antakarna Shuddhi. That is the definition of Karma Yoga. That is Karma Yoga. So that is just a technique that Swami Dayanand has suggested. And Gita has said the same thing in different ways. As we go through it, Bhagwan Krishna to सारा यही बोलते रहते हैं. मेरे पे छोड़ दो सब कुछ. Come and surrender to me. Right? Me being Ishwar. So it's the same sort of idea, different words. Okay, so this is taken a little longer than I thought it would take, but I thought we should cover these two things because then next time onwards we can probably start going into Gita and start going through the shlokas and all. Now you'll be able to understand them much more easily because we've had this 2 sessions where we've kind of given overview.
Nitu, one observation and a couple of questions.
Yes.
Observation, I've been doing this 5 whys in continuous improvement forever, but never did 5 whys on myself till you just brought it up.
Oh my God.
Right?
Tulbe, we can't hear you.
This is my life.
Can't hear.
5 whys to getting to the bottom of the problem.
This has been your life, right?
But I know it should be
manufacturing.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I think you may.
We can hear you.
Can't hear.
All my life I've been doing the 5 whys, but never did 5 whys on myself. And that reflection is a great idea. So that's one observation. Questions, I have 2, 3 questions.
Yeah.
Let me start off with the easier questions first. There's a book called The Art of Making Man, right? Have you heard of that?
No.
The Art of Making Man or Man Making. It's written by Chinmayananda.
I see. Okay.
Is he a good person to follow? I don't know if you know much
absolutely.
about him.
Yeah, he's also the same philosophy. He was actually Swami Dayanand's guru.
Okay.
But he has slight differences, but absolutely great to follow.
Okay, so there are two parts to that book, so I'm going to get that book. It's hard to get, but I'll get that and start reading that. Okay. Second question I have is, which you started off the session, and I think I've forgotten. So I think you've talked about it, but I've forgotten. Which is the form and the substance. Right. Now, subtle body, you said, is a form.
Yes.
But subtle body moves, right, with time. It's there.
Yes.
It's
not
so
eternal.
I'm a little.
Is it form
No,
or
no.
substance?
Huh?
It's not
Is it
eternal.
form or substance? And if it's not eternal.
It's not eternal.
No.
Oh, because
Sat-
you
You shed your subtle body then.
no,
You said the subtle body goes with you. So if you take if in your next janam you take the life of a dog, your subtle body goes with you.
Yes. Yes, but remember.
So when do you shed
the subtle body? When you have moksha, when you get moksha, that means you actually know that your real nature is Atma. When you have reached that level, right? The subtle body, meaning in other words, all your karmas are then liquidated. All your karmas are extinguished.
Yeah.
When your karmas are extinguished, you can't have any
after moksha.
Yes.
Yeah.
At moksha, subtle body goes.
Bitu, in one of your lectures, you said you can literally never acquire moksha.
Oh, did I say that?
I think you. I think
no.
said.
I must have said you can't acquire moksha. You can only, by acquiring moksha means to come to the realization that you have always been free. See,
you've always been free.
Yes, you're always moksha. The moksha has never been away from you. The problem is, it's a, it's like today also I am Brahman. Today also I am a Dehi. I'm all those things. I'm Atma, nothing but Atma. My substance is Atma, but I do not believe that. I did not know that. Moksha means getting a complete conviction that that is really the case.
I think in one of the lectures you said that you're always acquiring more
karma,
whether good or bad. So even if it's going to be transitory. It's not going to be permanent. Am I wrong? So I think
I can't hear you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're cutting in and out.
Okay. I said that in one of your lectures, I think you had mentioned, this is out of just recollection.
Right.
That you're always acquiring good or bad karmas.
Right.
So you can never achieve moksha, even if it will not be a permanent state.
Oh, okay. You can never achieve moksha by karmas. You can never acquire all good karmas and achieve moksha. So moksha can never be achieved by karmas. That is true. The way to get rid of your karmas is not by extinguishing them. You can't hope to say that I will live all my karmas and then that's the end of the karma, so no more new body. You can't do that because you will always be acquiring more karmas. The only way to extinguish your karmas is through knowledge. By knowledge is the knowledge of the fact that I, who I thought, I am the one who is doing the karmas. I am not even the doer of the karmas. You remove the connection between the karmas and yourself. See, right now, I or you, whether we are a subtle body or physical body, we think we are the doer. Right? These are my karmas. I did this karma. I did this pun. I did this pap. Next time my birth is going to be like that. My birth is going to be like that. Right? So that is a connect. I think I'm the doer. So as long as I think I'm the doer, those will be my karmas. The way to get rid of karmas is by understanding that I am not even the doer. When the ego goes away, the ego which says I am the doer is no longer there, then the karmas are gone. That's how it works. In other words, only knowledge of yourself, self-knowledge, can extinguish your karmas. Okay?
Yeah.
So we are going to get into a lot of detail on this. Chapter 4 and chapter 5 of Gita are only on this. I mean, not only on this, sorry. Are mainly on this. They're called Gyan Karam Sanyasa. How to do your work with knowledge. And what does that mean? It's our own ego which is in our way for realizing whether we are moksha or not. We are already free. We are already moksha, but our mind thinks that we are not. Our mind thinks that we are bound, and it has hundreds of reasons to think so. It thinks I'm this limited entity. I'm only this much. I'm different from others. I am the doer. I am the sufferer. I am the enjoyer. The mind creates these things in our mind. This is how we think. As long as I think that I am separate, as long as I think I am a doer, a sufferer, enjoyer, I will never get moksha. I can never, because moksha means full freedom. Moksha means an understanding that I am the absolute. Nothing can happen to me. If you are a form, as long as you think you're a form, something will always happen to you. You will never, you will always be at the mercy of circumstances. Today, good things will happen because you did good karmas. Tomorrow, something bad can happen. You're at the mercy of that circumstance. So that is not moksha.
Yeah.
You can never get moksha as long as you are convinced that you are a form. When you understand that you are actually not the form, you're actually the substance. And Karam Yoga is a path to get you there, Karam Yoga and Gyan together. But once you understand that you're not the form, you're actually the substance underneath. The form
You had
doesn't
to,
matter.
yeah.
The form can come and go.
Yeah.
Nothing will happen to you.
Yeah.
Once that
Yeah.
conviction is there, then you realize, I didn't do anything. I was always the same. I was always free. I just thought that I'm not free. Now I know I am free. It really doesn't matter what is happening to the form because nothing can affect me, nothing can touch me. I am the substance. That realization, when the mind has that realization, then you say that the mind has achieved moksha. Because one of the things that Vedanta says
So
is you can never achieve moksha as to like उसको प्राप्त नहीं कर सकते. मतलब anything that you can acquire, you can also lose. It's
yeah.
just a matter of fact. Whatever you can acquire, you can lose. Depends on the circumstances. So if there is something to be acquired, moksha is something to be acquired, you'll acquire it, you can lose it also. That is not moksha. Only if you realize that you never lost anything, that you've always been fine, only then you can say, okay, yeah, okay. I never lost anything, I will never lose anything. There's nothing to lose. That is moksha.
So then when do you get rid of your settled body?
So the way to think about it is, today we think we are the subtle body, right? And this
Yeah.
subtle body has an Atma,
Yeah.
right? I'm a subtle body or physical body, I have the Atma.
Yeah.
When you start understanding that you are the Atma, right? Which has also a subtle body in order you got the subtle body in order to get some experience because you just for the fun of it, you wanted some experience. You got the subtle body. You can then decide to lose that subtle body. It's gone. Whether it's there or not, there will be of no consequence. It's like subtle body is like a movie that you're going to watch. You're going to watch a movie, right? If you get immersed in the movie and you identify yourself strongly with the character in the movie, then you're thinking, oh my God, all the things that are happening to the character are happening to me. You feel the pain of the character, you feel the joy of the character. If somebody tells you, this is just a movie, nothing will happen to you. You relax, you're fine. You can just enjoy the movie. Then you won't think, oh, when will the movie end? Then you're fine. You can walk away from the movie anytime you want. Right? But if you think you're the character, you're not thinking like, or a dream, you're immersed in your dream. You just want that suffering to end.
Yeah.
You say, oh, I want this subtle body to end. When there is no suffering, you're seeing the subtle body like a movie, you're free. It's no longer there. There meaning you can walk away when you want. It's not, and whether it is there or not, or it will not matter anymore. That's called Jivan, that's called moksha or Jivan Mukti, right? It's all in our mind. It's all in our perspective. Do we see ourselves as a physical body? That's how we see ourselves first. Then we start learning Gita, and Gita says, no, you're not physical body, but you're the subtle body. Because it can't tell you you're the Atma. If it tells you you're Atma, it is too much of a jump.
Yeah.
then you go to subtle body and you start saying, okay, well, I'm a subtle body. I'll continue. I won't just expire in this year, in this lifetime. I'll continue with more lifetimes. I'll do karmas, things. And ultimately, you realize you're not even the subtle body. You're just the Atma. And then the whole thing is over. The whole thing is like you woke up from a dream. It's just like that.
But then it
You're
is
dreaming all the problems, and suddenly you wake up and you say, "Oh, what was I worried about? That was just a dream."
But what was the life cycle that you went through? Like mummy went through, she had a good time. Then in the last few stages, she was suffering. She was on the bed. She was going through all the pain. Matlab, if she was to be a realized soul, she would not feel that pain that was
No,
happening.
no,
She
no,
was
no. She would.
suffering. She was diseased. She was having problems. But if she were a realized soul, then she would not consider that as a suffering. She would just bear with it and say, I'm fine. Nothing. How? What is that life cycle?
See, even if you're a realized soul, first of all, there is this realized soul. You're thinking about a realized soul being mummy and you not being a realized soul, right? That
No,
itself
I'm
is
just
a
thinking if she was a realized soul, she would not, you would say that she would not go through that suffering or
no,
that
no, no, no,
suffering
no.
would
I'm just
not
saying.
affect her.
See, we this itself is a problem because it's not that a person is a realized soul and another person is not a realized soul, right? When you think like this, you're automatically thinking of that person as a separate subtle body and yourself as a separate subtle body, right? Correct?
Yeah.
If you say that one person is a realized soul and another person is not a realized soul, you're seeing a difference between those two. You're saying, I am not a realized soul or I'm a realized soul, that person is not. You're seeing a difference. They are different. You're still thinking in terms of forms.
Yeah,
One
but it
form
is
versus another.
no, it's in front of you, no. You are seeing that a person is suffering. How do you separate that from matlab you mean to say ki if suppose there's another person who's suffering, I should not be compassionate towards that
No, no,
person's
no, no, no.
thing and say ki okay, doesn't matter. This is not suffering. This is just a I mean, how would you accept that? What would you treat that as?
Okay, the way I would treat it is, okay, now I understand your question, I think. The
Hmm.
way I would treat it is that um, um, absolutely be compassionate,
Hmm.
right? Because you have to be, because you feel it also. You love that person, you feel it, and you should be compassionate, right? What will, rather than talking about mummy, let's talk about you, the one
Hmm.
who's feeling. Okay?
Hmm.
So the one who's feeling like this,
Hmm.
you feeling the pain of a
Hmm.
suffering loved one,
Person. Hmm.
suffering person who you love, right?
Hmm.
You will feel the pain. You'll
Hmm.
feel the sadness, the sorrow.
Hmm.
But you will also know without a doubt in your mind that these things always happen.
Hmm.
That people will come and go.
Hmm.
I will also feel these pain at some stage. I will also get old. I will also come and go. But nothing will happen to me. The real me, the me that I really care about, not this body, not even this, the me that I really care about will be just fine. This is how a realized person will think about it. Because that's what Krishna Bhagwan says to Arjun. He showed him his form. When he showed him his form of the world, that's what he said. You know the difference between a form and substance. A form will always go through ups and downs and will always suffer and will always be happy and will always have all these changes. That's the nature of the form. This is hard to accept if you think of yourself as a form. If you think of yourself as the substance, this becomes easier to accept because then you know that the form will go up and down. Your form will also go up and down and through changes and all kinds of pleasures and pain. But you will not cease to exist. What you'll find is at the end of the day, this is our biggest issue. That will I cease to exist? So at this level, from the perspective of a subtle body, this is how you have to think about a moksha. Now, there is another level which I don't want to get into right now because that is to say, But anyway, this is it.
Due to Swamiji also spoke about the difference between sadness and suffering, right?
What's that?
You tell us,
Is
Kiki.
no, you tell. I'm
No,
just
you
saying.
tell.
Does that apply here
No, Swamiji. I mean, I
in
don't know.
Billu's question?
When you're saying suffering means what? Suffering means that thinking that it's going to cease in my existence. No, you tell me more. I don't remember.
I mean, I don't remember the details, but I do remember Swamiji saying that even a realized person, even a jnani, will feel sadness. So if a jnani's, loved one, if a jnani's parent or some loved friend dies, it's not like a jnani is not going to feel sadness. A jnani will feel sadness. But that ultimate suffering, which is the same thing that Nittu said, that ultimate suffering where it completely shatters you, you feel like oh, that part is not there. Like the sadness will be there because those are normal human emotions, and you want a gyan. I mean, the jnani will be sad, but that deep suffering is not there.
So then that you're talking, Kiki, about me observing a person who's suffering, a loved one. But what about the person who's suffering?
So Swamiji also, when he died, it was very painful for him, very painful. And so what I heard from Carol and some other people, no, then the same thing that you apply as a person who's witnessing, like you were looking at Masi, the same thing that Swamiji applies to himself. That just what Nittu said, to even at that time of extreme suffering, to be able to have that objective knowledge, which is innate, that, this is the fact of this physical body.
If you remember correctly, Mummy used to always, even at the height of her suffering, she would say, this is what God has written for her, or it's in her,
Yeah.
This is what she has to go through. Till the last minute, I think she was saying things like that.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I've heard her saying.
No, she said, मैं अपने कर्मा दे फल भुगत रही हूँ. She would say. Yeah, but then see, then there's one person who has suffered and gone, and there's another person who has gone like this, Rajinder Bhaiya. I mean, so there's a difference. So that is, I guess, that is what is karam. That is what was the karams, right? What he would have done on what. I really don't know the difference. But see, there is a difference in what you see. Even the way a person suffers and just goes lingering, and another person just goes in a jiffy without knowing what has happened. So why is there this difference?
That is your karam.
Yeah. Karam. So okay, so are we all Karam yogis then? Committed?
I think those two things to do are good. Learn, Gyan, spend some time studying and reflect.
Introspection.
I think those are good. Yeah, I think those are very good.
Learn and reflect, and also apply. Apply in your right. Apply what you're learning. So Tony bhai, आपको पता है ना वो that very in consulting circles, this is a very common paradigm. It says plan, do, review. Plan, do, review.
I do it as PDCA. Plan, do, check, act. Plan, do, check, and act. Plan, do, check, and act. Yep. So what's the difference between the check and the act? So that you're checking how are you doing versus the baseline.
Oh, check the act.
Then you're acting.
Okay. Yeah.
Then you're acting to change again.
Yeah, but same thing. So instead of plan, you say study.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's wonderful.
So you got to study, you got to reflect, and then when you're acting, you have to keep in mind the fact that you are not alone in this world. You are not all powerful. You are connected to the universe. The universe has intelligence, has order. And whatever you are doing is going to be impacted by that order of the universe. You cannot act in isolation. You cannot do anything in isolation. So therefore, the results also will be determined not just by your action, but also by the action of the universe. So the results are not in your control.
Yeah,
You
right.
have to acknowledge this fact. When you're acting, you have acknowledged it deliberately. Understand that the results are not in your control because there is this whole universe which has its own intelligence. You can call that
Yeah.
universe intelligence God, you can call it anything you want, but knowing that and acting, and one way of knowing it is by praying to it or by like mentally having a communication with it. That is called Karam Yoga. Karam
What
Yoga
is
means
that
acting
intelligence?
with knowledge. Anji?
Yeah, I know, but what is that intelligence which is in all of us? That's the important part.
So, Meeta, so the question, you remember we had gone through this. See, if you look around you everywhere, there is order.
Yeah.
There is order.
I know, but how come? How was it created? I know
No,
you said it's
actually,
always there. I remember what you said,
yeah.
but it has to come from somewhere. It has to have some origin.
So you can that's a trap because you'll say it has some origin, then you'll say what's the origin of that origin, right? And then what's the origin of that origin? So you can't think like this. So the intelligence has always been there. We haven't studied this part of thing. We will study again. Intelligence has always been there, and it is always there. It never goes anywhere. It manifests as this world. Every little thing that we see in this world is a manifestation of that intelligence, because every little speck reflects that intelligence. Every atom, every proton, every little thing reflects the intelligence. They work, they are acting in a particular way, which is can be predicted, which is orderly. Electron always goes around a proton, around the nucleus, always. You couldn't see electrons going in different ways. Some are going around and some are going in a star-shaped pattern. No, there's an intelligence. So with every little thing, even if it seems totally dumb, it has come out of, it is a manifestation of that intelligence. That intelligence is what we call Ishwar. Or sometimes when you think about that intelligence along with the world, as manifested with the world, you call it Ishwar. When we think about that intelligence when the world is not manifest, because world can go through pralay also, we can have no manifestation, then we call it Brahman. But it's always there.
Okay.
It never came, it'll never go. It's that. And by the way, what Vedanta is saying is that your essence is that intelligence too. You're no different from that intelligence. Okay, enough, right?
Yes.
Chalo. So we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Rupa,
Thank you.
you all good? You didn't ask a single question, but
Because I don't understand. Chalo,
okay.
I'm learning. I'm learning.
Okay,
Nitya,
you
I'm
have
learning.
Shraddha. You have
I'm
Shraddha.
learning.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, I think I'll need many more lessons than all these other people in the class. But that's okay.
Okay. All right.
That means we can still continue to have fun, right?
Yeah. Now you'll have more fun. You can have fun without guilt.
Okay, good. All right.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Bye.
Happy New Year.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye bye. Happy New Year to
Bye.
all. Bye.